Spags, it's time for another doubleheader, a draft battle here in the Best Ball Mania 4 streets. My number 68th and a very nice 69th draft on tap today.
Very exciting here. Our last drafts of June. Pete and I are going to take a week off next week to go and celebrate the 4th of July. So we're going to get it in good today as our draft room is filled. And Pete, it looks like a special treat for you here. You're drafted in the top 4. So that never happens.
Yeah, I feel like I've been all 110s through 112. So, it'll be nice. See some familiar friends, JGFC, who's never not been in a draft with me, Sam, who finds his way in all of our drafts, Batch 9, I recognize, and then, you here at the end. So at least we're on opposite sides of the draft board today.
Definitely a positive one for sure. Of course, it's going to be some fun today drafting these teams. The usual rhetoric here is that we'll draft some good teams perhaps, but along the way, we'll probably get sniped and tilted along the way. And Pete, I didn't get a chance to watch Best Ball Breakfast yesterday, but I could see based on the title, did seem like you had perhaps a tough time in those rooms.
It wasn't a tough time. It was a great time. I had a team where I took JSN and Tyler Lockett, and a guy took Geno Smith, like just completely unstacked despite already having other options for stacking. So yes, I was tilting that hard. This is an interesting spot at 1-4 right now with the kind of Tyreek Hill situation here, but I am going to just go ahead and take Reek, even though I have been drafting Cooper Kupp ahead of Tyreek all offseason.
Yeah, I still have no issue taking Tyreek anywhere. Still don't think anything will happen to him with his slapping a guy in the back of the head, getting on the wrong boat, it seems like, but the guy's not pressing charges. So I'm not going to worry about it that much. And also, Pete, reminder for your banner for number 68.
There you go.
Oh, there. Wow. Same. Great minds think alike. So, Pete, one thing I got to say that's been in my head all week, Jalen Waddle going in the 5 hole here. So that's a unique one. Sam Sherman tweeting a lot about running backs lately. It has been kind of gnawing at the back of my head how these ADPs have worked out, how easy it is to not do 0 RB this year. How are you feeling about the running back discourse? Heating up a lot, seems like, heading into July.
What I think is funny about the running back discourse is, other than Eagles is the only man I've seen post on Twitter truly running back heavy starts. The one person who's willing to say, hey, you guys are all wrong with this early wide receiver stuff. I'm going to hammer running backs. Even the people who like running backs, they say, oh, just take too early, and then I need to recover at wide receiver because I will be fucked if I do not catch up. So I actually think the running back discourse is actually, in an actionable way, like, not that interesting. Everyone agrees that there's really good running back value, specifically in the 3rd round. Anyone who's watched my streams have noticed I've started a ton of teams with 2 running backs, but you just have to be conscious of the detours. But there's all this pushback to like the wide receiver stuff, and still no one will post teams or show teams where they're taking 4 or 5 running backs in the first 7 rounds. Like, why am I not seeing those teams if there's a counter strategy for this?
I guess maybe it's gotten to the point that the idea of even taking those 2 to 3 running backs is sort of pushing against the sentiment that people have towards 0 RB. So I don't know. I think that could be a part of it. I know for myself, I'd certainly love to draft some wide receiver heavy teams. I'm going to take Garrett Wilson here, but I took Austin Eckler, Pete. So I'm pushing back on myself here. If nothing else, I think to get a different portfolio, because I have, as I've talked about, really been focused in on like, hey, it's too easy to not take 0 RB teams because of these guys, the Breece Halls, the world, the Josh Jacobs, all of that we talked about that are values in the 2nd round. I had to kind of retrain my brain a little bit this past week, Pete, just to be like, all right, let's maybe go on a run here of taking running backs, even though I do much prefer taking zero RB teams.
Yeah, and I actually think it's the opposite. I actually think people are not doing 0 RB quite as much because the 3rd round is so devoid of good wide receiver options. And you're staring at Breece Hall, who I love. You're staring at Derrick Henry, who seems appropriately priced, elite quarterbacks, Mark Andrews, all of this stuff. I actually think this is what I was talking with Pat. Like, you have to make a really conscious effort to go 0 RB, because there is going to be a time in the 3rd and 4th round where the best player is definitely a wide receiver. So that's just like an interesting dynamic there, where even though wide receivers going up the board higher than ever, you do still have to kind of push yourself to be like, I'm going to pass on this running back value to reach for Deebo Samuel. Like that never feels good. And so I actually think 0 RB is probably still underutilized relative to how people talk about it.
No, I think that's a fair way to look at it too. And I know from my perspective on some of these running backs as well, like the thing that I dug my heels on last year was that no running back would get 25 or more touches. That ended up being the case. I think the high was 23. But that's something where that's the first time that's happened. And that's the part that I have a tough time with, is that some of the data going out there that people are talking about this, the advanced rates for running back heavy teams or early running back teams, it's accounting a period of time that really doesn't reflect the modern NFL. And I know the pushback is that it hasn't changed as much as people seem to perceive. But the fact that there's no real true bell cow running backs, like there used to be 5 to 10 guys getting 25 touches a game, now there isn't even one of them. I think that does reflect the market shift that the data hasn't fully caught up on.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do just have to highlight the one hole just took TJ Hawkinson at pick 24. My guess, too many beers here. This feels like a Q mistake, right? Like if you're starting to put oh wow, and now Alexander Maddox. This feels like the Davis Maddox star method has absolutely backfired.
Or just perhaps too many beers. Could be the issue.
Exactly. Yeah. So this situation I'm going to be at here at 3-4 is a perfect illustration of what I'm talking about as far as with zero RB this year. I start Tyreek Hill, Devonta Smith, big zero RB, bro. Would love to go zero RB. Just give me all the receivers. Am I going to take DK Metcalf, who I do not like at this price and I'm underweight on, over Derrick Henry or Ramondre Stevenson or Josh Allen or Josh Jacobs? Like, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. The question is, who do I take here? I am going to keep grabbing Ramondre. I think he is the guy I prefer slightly over Henry, although I like them both.
Yeah, some positive local beat reports about Ramondre so far, that I guess there's usually a sub back in the Bill O'Brien offenses, and they think that'll be Ty Montgomery, but there's still a chance that it's mostly Ramondre out there, or largely Ramondre out there. So the concerns about Montgomery might be a little bit overstated so far. The one thing I will say, Pete, though, is I have been taking a lot of the DK Metcalf reaches. So I feel like I'm the unique breed that has been really mentally going the other way and being like, hey, I have to go zero RB here, where I probably should be taking more Henry and Jacobs in this range just because I haven't been doing it yet.
The only thing I would say about that, and I think DK Metcalf is a good example of pushing. So you probably like DK Metcalf a little bit more than me, but I bet you would acknowledge that it's probably a relatively flat tier with some of those other wide receivers of just being like, push outside the ADP comfort zone and grab some Debo, grab if you like Amari Ridley. I like Keenan a lot. I know you like Christian Watson, but just making sure that your third wide receiver in zero RB builds isn't always DK Metcalf, because then it's like you want the benefit of the zero RB structure and the early wide receiver firepower, but then you are massively exposed to what I consider a pretty risky asset in third round DK Metcalf.
No, I think that makes sense. I know you've been a little bit down on Metcalf with the potential for the volume to go Lockett's way, to go JSN's way, and all of that. Certainly something that, I've been mindful of as I've seen my Metcalf exposures get so high just because of being a zero RB guy. But I think I dug out of my Eckler hole here. I guess we'll just build out our little bet on the Chargers. Keenan Allen, Pete, who's now soared up despite being an old guy. And normally the public, I guess, not quite as entranced by the old guys that they're soaring up at this point of the drafts.
Yeah, I forget. Now I get so many comments down my videos that I can't remember like who said what or if it was on Twitter or whatever, but someone was like, I'm having sticker shock with Keenan Allen in the third round. And I was like, I get it. Like traditionally an older wide receiver like Keenan isn't going to feel great there, but I do just like the macro of how everything's setting up for the Chargers this year. I think is pretty exciting. And let's see here. I'm going to start to mix in a little more Drake London, who I've been light on. Again, with the thought, like, I just don't see much difference between all of these guys, but I don't think I want to do ETN as my second detour quite yet. What was I talking about? Oh, Keenan. In kind of different from the Metcalf situation, I do think if someone takes a really big hit because of Quentin Johnston, it's going to be more Mike Williams, where I feel like Keenan's role is just so insulated. And with Kellen Moore there, I get the excitement with that offense. I mean, they could be a really, really fun offense. And Keenan Allen, they were talking about this on Ship Chasing the other day too. His game has never been predicated on athleticism or whatever. Like his game will age gracefully just the way he plays. So I think you can definitely still capture like a really high end Keenan Allen season this year.
It's also going to be a more vertical offense. Even some of the OTA reports, minicamp reports about the Chargers so far has been that Keenan Allen's been the guy who's been out there running all the routes so far, despite Mike Williams certainly being a little bit younger, Quentin Johnson being younger. Both those guys are coming off of injuries, so Allen's been out there, and he's running deeper routes than it seems like he ever has in his career. So if he is going to have one more year, like theoretically, if he kind of regresses in terms of his overall ability, but he's just got a higher ADOT and, a little more effective downfield targets, you can kind of see the effects of age maybe not be there quite as much. And I've talked about it, and I know we agree, and we're on the same page with this. Like, Kellen Moore going to the Chargers is probably one of the biggest offensive coordinator improvements out there. So I think, to me, I've had a little bit of Keenan Allen sticker shock, and now I kind of have to rationalize the fact that, like, I haven't taken him enough, and I probably need to get some shares in before we do close out the summer.
Yeah, I'm just still shaking my head at this. Too many beers here. This feels exactly like a star air, right?
Yeah.
I said I was going to pass on ETN in the 4th. I am not going to pass on him in the 5th.
Also, quick shout out to the chat as well. Appreciate all you guys hanging out this year, but we'll want to shout out Chunk the Deuce here. Just wanted to say what up on the live stream for the first. Chunk the Deuce, Pete. It had to be the name. I don't know.
Spags was so excited to read a compliment that he just completely bulldozed over the name Chunk the Deuce. Keep going.
Chunk the Deuce saying, just wanted to say what up on the live stream for the first time. Love the content, just upset. I'm already addicted to drafting in June. We appreciate hearing the new names out there. Obviously, our beloved regulars, always a great thing here to see on Pete's channel and the Splash Play channel, which of course we're doing the double header on after this draft ends. But Pete, I just like seeing new names, and we're going to see more and more, and they're going to come in with wild card theories, and we're just going to have to strap it and enjoy the ride.
Yeah. This theory from DG also makes sense. Probably thought he did a slow draft and left after the 101. Like, you get in, you're like, Justin Jefferson, let's star up my Vikings, baby, deuces. And then next thing you know, I will be really curious to see how many Vikings did he star, Spags. This is our next bet. Do you think he's done after Kirk Cousins, or do you think we get a KJ Osborne at pick 72?
So I don't think he did star them. I think he's doing them live because it's not hitting the full 30 seconds for his picks. So I think he just loves the Vikings and is like, I got to get these guys and make sure he's doing a too many beer stacks. He's doing his own stream for himself. And I think that's what's happening. I don't think this is all Q errors. I think this is a person making a choice.
That would be really funny if he was like, he took your idea of your, you spin for a stack, but he's like at home right now and he's had like 19 Bud Lights by 10 a.m. Eastern. And he's like firing up a stream right now. There's like 2.5 people watching him stream this, just absolutely hammered, going on a soliloquy about KJ Osborne right now. Hopefully that world exists.
Relative to some other streams that I've come across out there, I wouldn't mind watching that one.
It does sound it is. If you're going to be streaming best ball at this point, and trust me, I want to foster creativity. I want to encourage more best ball streamers. But yeah, let's mix in some booze. Let's mix in some gimmicks. You want to draft in character for a whole draft. Some people did want me to draft as Mans for the 69th draft. If the draft didn't fall so early in the morning, maybe I would have entertained it.
And I'm taking Michael Pittman here. I do have my Chargers double stack with Eckler and Allen. Also have a week 17 correlation with Garrett Wilson and Amari Cooper. But Pete, never hurts to be alive for an AR stack at this point. Did you know, Pete, AR, Best Ball Mania 3 winner, Pat Kerrane's highest drafted QB so far in Best Ball Mania?
I saw that. Yeah, it's nice to know he's not going to win Best Ball Mania 4. I will say, Spags, I've started to get I got Anthony Richardson, Spags, at pick 110 in one of my Dalmatian slow drafts. So I will be starting to pack my bags here. Don't you worry. Don't you worry.
I'm glad to hear it.
Let's see. Look at this. 16% Mike Evans, 16% Treylon Burks. Do I have any kind of correlation stuff here? I think I would prefer to have slightly more Burks than Evans, all things considered, although I do like both of them.
Yeah, I prefer Burks. Burks getting some nice headlines. I think he's in the best shape of his life, Pete. So that's going to be pretty good. But he's playing bigger, playing stronger. He says all of that. So I think it's a positive thing. If anybody's going to be good in this Tennessee offense, I think it's much more likely to be Burks than it is going to be Chig this year. Hard to see both guys getting there for me, but I guess if they both improve, maybe can be that way. But Burks is a guy I don't have enough of, and I really do. He's another guy I probably need to hammer a little bit more, especially at that nice 69 spot.
Yeah, he again, like, I just don't think his upside scenarios are that different than the 4th round wide receivers. And I don't even know like the actionable way to play that unless it's I'm not saying to reach for Traylon Burks because he doesn't seem like a guy that's screaming up draft boards. Although there continues to be some positive buzz about him from training camp. What did David Kitchen tweet out about Traylon Burks? There it is, KJ Osborne. God damn it. Traylon Burks quote, I would say I'm playing fast, physical, and not thinking too much. I'm just getting better each day. So that's actually hype just coming from Traylon Burks himself. That feels like actionable information.
Here's a relevant question from Chris Diaz in the chat. Can you be profitable while absolutely pissing away your EV to be funny while streaming? I've realized, Pete, and I know it's tough because you're streaming every single draft, so you perhaps don't have that counterpoint. Sometimes you get better drafts on a stream, and I know it's hard when there's all the wide receiver avalanches that people see and all that, but at least you have drafters that get out of the way, that don't take too many illogical things along the way. I tend to think that having the stream drafts and then the off-stream drafts for me has been a good balancing of my portfolio, but how are you feeling now that you're almost halfway through?
Yes, someone asked me the other day in the chat, because I think there was a conversation on Twitter the other day about what you thought your EV was of each team. And Liam said his Best Ball Mania entries were worth $55, which is just an astronomical EV. The way I kind of think about it is I think it's going to be harder for me to advance teams in these rooms because I'm drafting with people who know how to draft smart structural teams and for the most part aren't making like glaring mistakes. So I think my EV in getting out of these, I wanted Kyle Pitts to fall there, although I'll just grab Mike Evans as I was debating both of them. I think it's going to be harder for me to advance. My EV is probably neutral, but I do think the teams I do get through to the playoffs will be slightly positive EV, just because I do think the type of teams I'm building are going to be unique. I'm often going to have some pretty big ADP fallers. I think just my rooms lend themselves to some interesting builds and combinations that I wouldn't get in others. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. I'm not holding my breath for a mega advance rate this year, but I am holding my breath that I could have one or two teams make a run.
Yeah, I think it's a fair way to look at it. And honestly, I think the biggest test of everything, and we talked about it before, that you could probably auto draft and get that close to that advance rate of the average of 16%. I think that's something too, where you might just end up with 16%, but have a pure 16% that some other people out there. I would have liked to have gotten Quentin Johnson there, but our guy Batch takes him. Man, could use a running back here. I don't want to box myself out of AR yet. I'm going to reach for Elijah Moore and then see what happens on the way back. Ugh. Damn it. Quentin Johnson going really fucked up what I was trying to do there.
Yeah, you were going for the big stack there. Let's recap our teams here now through 7 rounds. I have 2 running backs, 5 wide receivers, Ramondre Stevenson and Travis Etienne at running back. Wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, Devonta Smith, Drake London, Traylon Burks, and Mike Evans. Spags, what as you're about to be on the pit clock here for the 8th?
So I have Justin Herbert, Eckler, wide receiver, Garrett Wilson, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Michael Pittman, and Elijah Moore. And I do think, unfortunately, this is not going to be an AR room for me. I'm taking known good guy. Actually, nope. It might still be an AR room because Justin Herbert and Deshaun Watson, Pete, both are week 5 buys.
Uh-oh, the bye week bros are coming after you. I was piecing that together. I was like, oh, wow, you have both Elijah and Amari. Here comes the Watson pick. Oh, wait, will the bye week bros scare him away? That's again, I don't even think this is bad, although I do think, you could if Anthony Richardson slipped, you could probably get away from it, but that is a lot of draft capital to invest.
Yeah. I mean, I took an early running back, so I don't need to hit 0 RB in the same pocket I normally would. So I think that's the one thing I'll tether myself to as we go forward with my picks, but see what Pete does here on the clock.
Yeah, I have been, basically I've been saying that I'm going to start taking Zay Flowers ahead of Rashad Bateman, but in these spots where Zay Flowers is off the board and I do have a little mini correlation with Tyreek Hill, I will take a Bateman discount here, which is actually just had a video that came out for Fantasy Life today looking at the Ravens can't battle. And my thing was I'm taking Flowers over Bateman, but I am going to scoop up Bateman now when he falls past ADP. So, put my money where my mouth is there.
What put Flowers ahead of Bateman for you? Is it the fact that Bateman's getting cortisone shots in May?
Yeah, I think there's just more risk to Rashad Bateman having re-injuries, not having a big training camp. And, if he's missing games in the preseason, his ADP is going to fall. So if working under that thought of, if we're going to get cheaper Rashad Bateman, I don't want to be really heavy at ADP. I want to pick my spots with him after ADP because I could see him slip another 10, 20 picks if we get bearish news during preseason.
Yeah, the Bateman foot stuff, leg stuff, it just worries me enough. Zay Flowers, I wasn't in love with coming in. I kind of think, to me, it's something I talked about because I stacked the Ravens on my Spags Stacks video on Friday, which you can check out on the Splash Play channel. Fun playlist to go through. Now Too Many Beers is drafting former Vikings with Dalvin Cook. So
that one,
this might get thrown
I think
out.
that one was an ADP. So I do think the star thing happened. My guess is they end up with Michael Thomas here.
Okay, we'll find out because I know we've talked about drafts getting thrown out recently. This is the most live to get thrown out because of all the ADP reaches with Osborne, with McBride. Like, I think we're now in the danger zone of this one being against your count.
Well, now all of them are going to be ADP values. So yeah. So that's exact. It is the theory that either they thought it was a slow draft or they literally made their first pick, started up and had something happen, because they did go through their star queue. Apparently didn't like Ty Chandler. They're firmly on Dwayne McBride over Ty Chandler, and then just pieced out and now is getting all the veteran fallers. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the brand for Too Many Beers strong here in this first stream. I'm seeing them draft, and if you see that name in a draft, just keep an eye on it. Let us know on social media if he's doing the same thing.
All right, Spags, you're going to be proud of me. I'm going to take your boy here. This is the exact kind of spot. If Tua came back, I would have preferred to stack Tua with Reek. I don't have a lot of quarterback options on this team. I'm not a fan of the Bucks or the Titans QB situation. I don't mind Ritter super late, but I do not have a lot of stacking options here. And then this is one of the issues I talk about when you hammer one position early, is then it makes it tougher to build backdoor stacks, right? Because I'm not going to be taking a lot of extra wide receivers. So who's a quarterback I feel comfortable not, omega stacking? It's definitely a guy like Anthony Richardson. I'll get a share here at pick 100.
No, I think that makes sense. I would have considered taking him if he came back my way, just because I do have Michael Pittman and I planted my AR flag. And there's going to be so many teams I have, Pete, that are just AR got away from me and I have Michael Pittman on. So I really hope he's going to be good this year, and he is the Devonta Smith in this offense.
Michael Pittman as the Devonta Smith?
Yeah, because I just keep taking him, and then if AR goes, it's like, well, I guess I just got Michael Pittman now. Like, I don't love the bet without AR, obviously.
Yeah, I do not feel like, I think you can draft Pittman on his own, and I think you can draft Richardson without Pittman. I don't think they're like is hyper linked together as like some other quarterback wide receiver combos.
Have you been following some of Chad Maschke's data, which the Badge Bros, I think, are the main vessel for what he's been putting out there, but he has some good Twitter updates as well. But he's been talking about some of the stacking not being as high, and I think he's only got like 3% of the BBM entries overall compared to the 24% or whatever that's been completed. But it seems like people are not stacking enough, so I have to presume that if they're not stacking like good QBs, they're probably not stacking like an AR with Pittman as often as I would think they should.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that data is now starting to get more interesting here. I do think we are about on the cusp before training camp of we're going to start to see a lot more ADP movement, specifically with the running backs. And I do think some buzzy wide receivers here as we go. I want to check in on a couple comments, Spags, but you want to talk about what you're doing here at the turn?
Yeah, I'm getting sniped on everything. Javonte Williams would have been a nice value. Instead of take Pirine, I would have liked to have had Njoku fall back. But of course, Randstad needed him for no correlation whatsoever. So no Njoku for me with Mark Andrews. Great team. I think I'm going to have to take a running back here. I am going to take Damian Harris and see if maybe I could build out some New England stuff late.
I like both of those picks. Pirine, Damian Harris, nice pairing there with Eckler or a 0RB build. Those guys should get touches right out of the gate. Hang on, what did I want to? There's a couple comments I wanted to get to here. To people saying, will this draft get thrown out for the Minnesota guy? I do not think it's going to get thrown out. Oh, here's the thing. I mentioned this before. So Spags and I do not ping people on Discord because it is very obvious when we get into these drafts. There's a reason why JGFC is always in the drafts. It's because the second the stream starts, Spags and I enter right before the show starts. So that is how you know when we are getting in a splash play draft. I'm going to go ahead and take Pat Freiermuth here. I don't have any correlation specifically with Seattle, but I like him a lot here. 10 picks past ADP.
Also, shout out to Andrew saying he took Williams to Spags taking Njoku, which I appreciate when people do allow us to get a nice lined up stacks. The issue, Andrew, is that I tried to push Njoku to my next pick instead and perhaps got greedy. But I appreciate the sentiment here. It is a community effort, not a collusion, Pete, just a community supporting their favorite streamers.
I like that, Spags, assuming we're their favorite streamers. We all know it's Flock. Here we go.
Oh, coffee pour. People love when I talk slightly over the coffee pour.
Yeah, you really ruined it. I mean, people really like the coffee pour, and I can't even tell how much of it's like genuine ASMR or everyone's just in on the bit. But I mean, I could draft Spags, the world's most beautiful team, just perfectly correlated all these ADP values, and people would still talk about the coffee pour in the comments instead of the team.
It's like the OCD, I think. Like, did you watch Mr. Rogers when you were a kid? And it's like when he like is getting undressed, which is weird that there's like a grown man getting undressed after his day was like the intro to the show. But he's like taking off his shoes and there's like the sound of it. Like there is something to that thing. So I could see why that would be like a little bit of an OCD tick that you just want to hear the coffee pour as part of it.
I know. I appreciate you explaining, how putting yourself in the shoes of someone who might be feeling that way about the coffee pours. All right, what do we got going on here? I was kind of hoping Rashad Penny would fall back. This does feel like a running back selection for me. I have pretty heavy Herbert bags, or I guess that's come down a little bit. I was hot on him, but I do have the Drake London there, and I still do like Khalil Herbert. Let's add Khalil Herbert as my third running back with Ramondre and Etienne.
So Vikings and Olds, Kevin's pointing out, is too many beers strategy. Do you think, Pete, that too many beers is mad about recent decisions that Bud Light's made? Their marketing, because that's the kind of draft I'm envisioning here.
No, I do think what's funny about it is because they are, they've been auto drafting since round 8. Is just who are the type of players that slip past ADP and hang around at the queue for a few rounds. It's like all the guys no one wants to click. Who wants to click Dalvin Cook right now? Who wants to click Michael Thomas? Who wants to hit Alvin Kamara? At least they have some nice correlation going on here with the Saints accidentally, and then Odell Beckham. It's just like I hate myself anytime I click any of those guys, and some of them I've never clicked.
I still like Michael Thomas, but yeah, I think most of those names not feeling too great. Alvin Kamara, since it does come up a lot whenever we're talking about him, his suspension stuff probably not going to hit until July because that's when his court date is, as somebody pointed out to us, I think, last week. So keep that in mind for the Kamara pick if you're worried about his ADP or where it is right now. But let's see what I get on the board here. So I have 3 running backs. I have 5 receivers. I kind of feel I don't have any tight ends, so that's actually an issue. But Aaron Rodgers is falling enough here that I think I can get away from my bye week issues. I'm taking a third QB, double stacking week 17 with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, you have Garrett Wilson, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't hate this at all. And, something like Sean and I did on our draft last week where we did 3 tight end build, but actually spent on those tight ends a little bit more. And I think it would have felt more gross if you didn't have Garrett Wilson, but being able to stack up your number 1 wide receiver with that third quarterback there. And the whole thing too about even when you look at Leone's data, and it doesn't account for like draft capital. Like if you were looking at the buckets, you have spent more at the quarterback position than you need to for sure. But the way you harness a 3 quarterback build is with having 3 different stacks during the fantasy playoffs. That's where you can get that back. So it'll probably be one of those things where it makes it harder for you to advance out of this league, but could really work in your favor the way the playoff gauntlet works if you're able to really lean into those stacks.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And yeah, I probably could have pushed Rodgers here, but after getting burned on the Njoku push, figured I would just grab him. And honestly, I was going to take Dulcich either way for that pick to get some more little LAC Denver correlation, which is probably one of my least correlated week 17 games in my portfolio so far.
I don't have anything really jumping out to me here. So I do think I'm just going to take Alec Pierce and likely be done at wide receiver. This will be my 7th wide receiver and get that stack with Anthony Richardson there.
Yeah. All right. So nice 7 receiver team here. And you did get your early running backs. So I feel like good draft capital allotment. I think all the tools would approve of your draft capital buckets here.
Yeah. We'll see. It's kind of funny now how like the top two running backs at the queue who I'd normally take in these spots. Like I guess I'm not opposed to taking Roshan with Khalil Herbert. I don't think that's bad, but I don't like taking Tank with ETN because I do really think the seasons ETN does have like a legendary season because they start throwing in the ball and he just turns into a bell cow. Then I really think that Tank has more of a red shirt year in that scenario. He'll still get some touches, but I do feel like he's more of a true handcuff than, a coexisting backfield. Maybe that's a bad take, but that's how I feel about those. And it's more of a price thing, right? If I spend pick 120 on Herbert, I don't need as much out of him as I do Travis Etienne as a 5th round pick.
I think that Bigsby, I agree that Bigsby is kind of coming for ATN's role. I guess the way that you can sort of logic yourself into taking both of them is that Bigsby's probably coming for, 5 to 10 of those touches, and then the rest will go to ATN. But still, like, I think that they took Bigsby because I think this regime doesn't love ATN. We saw it with the usage down the stretch last year, not enough pass game work. To me, like, Bigsby is not a contingent back, but he is sort of a guy with a role potentially who could take the entire role if ATN falls completely out of favor.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like playing the backfield both ways. I find the sliding prices for ETN very palatable, and I think Tank Bigsby is a strong, 0 RB candidate.
Mhm.
All right, what are we going to do here at pick 148? I do think maybe I could, you know what? Maybe I will go just Algier here. Since I do have London, I already took Herbert. I think these guys are close. Algier definitely more of just a pure contingent play where I do think Roshan could eventually, as the season progresses, wrestle away more of that backfield. But with the Herbert pick, I do think I prefer a scenario where Herbert holds on to the job and Algier realizes his contingent value.
There isn't a world where you would take Herbert and Roshan together as like Herbert, the guy who starts the year, and Roshan who wins the year over, or the role over the course of the year.
No, and I've done it before. I was just thinking if I think it's close, right, between Algier and Roshan, and I have kind of the correlation stuff already of building out a bet on Atlanta, I just thought it was a good tiebreaker. But if Algier was gone there, and who would have been the next guys, like, down to the Singletary Ford stuff, I do probably just take Roshan and double up there on the Bears. I mean, the thing that's nice about the Bears too, right? And I've said this before. I mean, they ran at the highest clip last year. Even if they throw a little bit more, they're still going to be one of the most run heavy teams in the league. They ran 60% of the time last year. So my whole thing with the Bears backfield is I don't even think you have to be right just picking one. I think you can be right getting two of those guys. Roshan is interesting to me because I do think if a guy emerges as the pass catcher there, Roshan has the best pass catching profile. So I don't know, maybe I'm talking myself into, I should have doubled up on Bears running backs, but I'm almost a Bear running back in most drafts, and certainly at least one Bear or Saint or Dolphins running back at every draft.
Once again, I lose a running back. I would have liked to have taken in Jerome Ford. Would have made sense with my Cleveland bet, but I'll reach for Tyquan Thornton a little bit here and get some Buffalo, New England correlation, and another receiver in the building. But I'm just slightly losing out, Pete, on all the guys that are getting close to falling right where I want them to be. And this has been a frustration point for me this draft.
Uh-oh.
Not a full tilt, frustration point.
Yeah, I would never want you to full tilt, Spags.
No, it's not good for views. Nobody enjoys watching that. But shout out to the chat as well. Seeing some nice chats coming through, including this one from Chief Smoke saying, Flock's been my favorite for a while, but you guys are growing on me. We appreciate it here. Obviously welcoming of all the refugees from other YouTube channels, even if we do razz them occasionally on here. Man, this is a tough one. Because I do have Gerald Everett. Pete, if you were in my shoes, would you take Gerald Everett for one more tight end, or would you take Marvin Mims for a little more Denver at receiver?
That's tough. I mean, I love correlation. I love Marvin Mims. Both picks seem fine to me. I'd probably just play the ADP game, honestly, but
yeah. So we are a little bit behind ADP on Everett, or a little bit after ADP. So I will take Gerald Everett here and probably be done at tight end with Dulcich and Gerald Everett, which weird tight end room for me, but I think that's probably a 2 tight end build.
I think that was a close call, but I do think you've done decent enough at wide receiver that you didn't need to force it. You also have some other outs for wide receivers late. If you want to continue to build out your stacks, right? Like Mecole Hardman's always there for Jets. If you want to take a flyer on a Cedric Tillman late, you can do that. And then just you have such a big bet on the Chargers. And like in my perfect world, when I'm making an Omega bet on an offense, I really would like to have the tight end there because the tight end production is just so correlated with the quarterback production. And if the Chargers are going off over the course of 3 weeks, like you certainly can envision the Gerald Everett game during that stretch.
Yeah, just one
as what I'm wanting to do. I already kind of know a couple of my later picks. So we're going to grab Kenny Pickett to stack with Freiermuth here, Richardson and Kenny Pickett. Now my quarterback room, my running backs, Ramondre, Etienne, Herbert, and Algier. Wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, Devonta Smith, Drake London, Traylon Burks, Mike Evans, Rashad Bateman, Alec Pierce, and tight end Pat Freiermuth.
Also, I don't know how to say this to people, but apparently the stream is down. If people refresh your stream, I don't know how they would see it. Actually, I'll put it in the chat. But yeah, but some people lost the stream, even though I did not on my end.
Yeah, I don't think I didn't lose you at all, right? Maybe it was a YouTube glitch.
No, and I have it on my laptop here, so I don't know. I guess maybe a part of the country could be like the weird servers being in different parts of the country. Maybe one portion lost it.
Man, we're already getting shadow banned. Flock heard his name came up and then pulled some of his connections at YouTube to give us a little flash cancellation.
I will say, I will ask everybody to hit the like button here on Pete's channel. I'll point out too. So what Pete, this would tilt me pretty hard. Somebody already gave a dislike to the splash play version of the doubleheader today, which means it's one of our foes out there who really don't like us. But also, we get more views, Pete, when we get more likes. So something to keep in mind here. Our biggest viewed videos have been our most liked videos. So there's a correlation play there, guys. If you want to help Pete's channel out, of course, it is March to 15,000 subs. The splash play channel, it's March to 3,000 subs. Hit the like button on the videos. It really does help us out here. Get seen by more people, more recommendations go into the mix.
Interesting. Yeah, I am. I've been good about asking for people to subscribe to the channel. We did pass 14,000 subs. Normally it's the chat reminding me to ask people to like the video. And so I
didn't think it mattered, but then I saw like our most liked videos. It's like that's when it gets served up to 25,000 people in terms of like the recommendations. I mean, and if we don't get as many likes, it's like 15 to 20,000, which matters for streamers on the rise like Pete and
I. Thank you, James. Yeah, feels good. We are on our way to 15K. I feel pretty confident we will hit that over the next month or two and get to do that giveaway. Man, I have so much. I'm kind of surprised how much Tyjae Spears I have. My exposures always surprise me sometimes, but I do have this bet on the Titans with Traylon Burks, and I will kind of build that out here with Spears as probably my last running back here. Ramondre, Etienne, Herbert, Algier, Spears. I guess it could be a fringe six running back build.
What's your percentage on Spears? I didn't see it on your screen.
It was like 16, probably 17% after that pick.
Okay, so I'm at 14 Spears, and which feels okay in terms of 0RB portfolio, though I kind of have fallen a little bit less out of love with Spears as this offseason's gone on for no particular reason besides just, I guess, maybe a little more like for Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I mean, again, when you're drafting Spears at pick 172, you don't need him to have a standalone role. It would be nice if he was in there coming in. What you get excited about the standalone role isn't even the production that's hitting your lineup. You're getting excited that the coaches trust him and are willing to have him on the field early. And then it gives you the confidence if Derrick Henry gets injured that Tyjae Spears is going to be the main guy out on the field. So to me, he's still strictly a handcuff play. But I will be excited if we see him on the field early in the season.
Yeah, no, I think he can be that, that role last year for Dontrell Hilliard, where he was getting some pass game work, was getting a little bit of the sneaky kind of, shotgun snap rushes. So I think it's something for Tyjae Spears where there is a theoretical role there if they do run that offense back in the same way. But new offensive coordinator for them, who's also not a guy with any sort of pedigree. I think he was the passing game coordinator for Tennessee last year. So he got promoted for running that offense and passing game last year.
All right, I'm going to do what I sometimes do with the chat here before you talk through your picks. I definitely have a luxury pick if I'm going to do a third tight end or a sixth running back. Let me hear from the chat which way you guys would go. A third tight end. I only have one right now, but it's Freiermuth, and I have 5 running backs. I think I could stop. It's either a 6 running back or a 3 tight end build. Let me know.
I'm going to grab a 5th running back here and take Gus Edwards. So I have the most bootleg version of the Miami-Baltimore game in Week 17 with Raheem Mostert and Gus Edwards. And Mostert was a nice little value pick. So I think I'm done at running back with 5 here.
I like that. It's like you got the Prada handbag, except you bought it like off the street in New York City and not from the Prada store.
Yeah, the stitching is just somebody's bubble gum, some used bubble gum put in there, but it works. Still looks like a Prada bag from afar.
The chat says they want me to show the roster here. I am gonna. This looks like it's probably going to be a 3 tight end build because I'm going to take the Jawan Johnson ADP fall. This is one of those picks where sometimes everything lines up right. I need a tight end. He's 20 picks past ADP and he's correlated with Mike Evans in week 17. So accomplishes a lot of our objectives there. And I believe this is going to lock me into a 3 QB or a 3 tight end build, most likely, because I have another tight end on my radar.
Forgris here is saying what I usually do here when I get AR as well. Just take Michael Mayer for free at the end of drafts, which feels pretty great. Great red zone target in college, playing indoors in week 17. Mayer, to me, Pete, is just one of those guys undervalued right now just because he hasn't had the steam because he's been banged up, I guess, or missed minicamp for some reason. Might not even be an injury.
Yeah, I like Mayer a lot. I saw Karain on Twitter referenced he is his most rostered tight end right now. I do completely agree that he's mispriced. And yeah, he's I think he fits into kind of like the Sam Laporta stuff of, he's a good 2 tight end pick, if you pairing him with like a Mark Andrews or a George Kittle. And I think he's also a good late, 3 tight end selection there. So yeah, I definitely think Mayer is underpriced.
Mayer right now is my number 2 in BBM, actually, right behind Mark Andrews. Andrews just under 20%, Mayer just a little bit over 18, which I feel pretty good about. I like my exposure so far.
Yeah, CLN says my AR back stacks are always with Adams or Jacobs, and sometimes Mayer, a little Mayer, but rookie tight ends are Blay. The thing is like, yes, they are generally, but like 2 things. One, we saw rookie tight ends really come on at the end of last year. We saw Trey McBride have a big game in week 17. We saw Jelani have a spike week. Obviously Dulcich was big. On top of that, this is the best tight end class. Like Michael Mayer was a better prospect than a lot of those guys. And so you have a really good tight end class and they're free. I get like the reason we don't like Kincaid is because you're taking on that rookie risk. Of course, Michael Mayer gets sniped from me here, 2 picks. It happens. But that's the thing about a couple of these guys is they are so cheap. I am going to grab, I did want Ritter as part of a 3 QB build here. Anthony Richardson, Pickett, and Ritter. I do have a nice bet on the Falcons. And Ritter's a guy I've been consciously trying to get some more of. I wrote about him in the Fantasy Life newsletter on Monday. And when I have London, when I have Algier, I like tacking on Ritter. Because otherwise, I think I totally could get away with Richardson and Pickett as a 2 QB room. I don't think that's bad. But I also think this could firmly be a 3 QB room as well.
Yeah, no, I think 3 QB makes sense. Certainly, if you want to account for any risk of Richardson not starting right away, I still obviously would err on the side of thinking that he will. But the worst case scenario for Richardson is that he doesn't start till after their bye, which is week 11. So that's one thing to keep in mind there. But I don't think he can not start after that. I am going to take one of the receivers here. Pete mentioned earlier, going to take McCole Hardman. So that'll give me my 7th receiver, and I'll get to complete a little double stack here with the Jets because I think Conklin went already. So.
Did he? Conklin always goes before you think he will. It's so funny how there's some picks, and obviously I have my history with Tyler Conklin snipes, but there are some players where the field just does not like them unstacked or uncorrelated. And like if you're heavy on Jets and Browns, it's like you might just have a clean path to getting a player. But Conklin, people like him just in a vacuum. I think people are just in on Aaron Rodgers tight end, and they're not going to overthink it. Conklin just never seems to really fall that much in drafts.
So I'm torn right now. Hunter Henry, I think, makes sense for this build. You mentioned Cedric Tillman before. I think he makes sense here. Nobody else does. Would you go with 3rd tight end, Pete, or should I go with Tillman?
I would go another wide receiver here, I think, in this build. I would break the tie in favor of the correlation, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind getting the triple stack here. I wish I'd gotten Njoku earlier because I think I would have felt a little better about my tight ends. But yeah, I'll skip Hunter Henry here. But I think Hunter Henry going to be out there quite a bit based on everything we've seen so far in minicamp.
Yeah, I think the reason also I am maybe a little higher on Dulcich and Everett. Like some people might look at that pairing and be like, that's a 3 tight end room. But I like both those guys a lot where I don't think you necessarily had to tack on a 3rd if there wasn't like an obvious correlation play for you there.
Yeah, if Conklin had fallen, that would have been very obvious, but yeah.
I am going to do my preferred way to double stack Anthony Richardson, which is with Alec Pierce and Jelani Woods. So I like how this team came together. This is like a build type. I talked about this with uh, Brick the other day, how this 3-5-7-3 build where you get the benefits of the three potential different stacks in the playoffs, but you also have one guy who has access to a top 5 ceiling. And we can quibble with it as far as Richardson and Freiermuth. Those aren't prices for an elite QB or an elite tight end, but they are in the mid tier there. So my thought is, can I have a Kenny Pickett week, a Desmond Ridder week, and an Anthony Richardson week? And can the, Richardson or Freiermuth weeks come at a week where they separate from the rest of the position, basically? So you're kind of getting to have the elite onesie cake with the 3 different stack cake at the same time is kind of what I've been messing around with.
So people are wondering how Too Many Beers finished his team, Pete, if you want to maybe pull that up.
Let me go to the different view here.
Because it seems like he went with a 3-6-5-4. It looks like is his final team.
Too Many Beers. Let me zoom out a little bit here. Yeah, this team is definitely not getting thrown out. They just took ADP values to end. I mean, Chase Brown picked 216, Jeff Wilson 192. Some of the ADP fallers are so big that I don't want to say it fully offset it, but it offset it a little bit.
And of course, he's the one that took Conklin too.
Of course, he took Conklin. He took Conklin. I love that.
It is funny though that he did get former Vikings. Like if this was an auto draft, he got Cook, he got Irv Smith, the former Vikings, so he kept it on brand even if it was accidental.
I love that. Let me name this team and then we can recap our drafts. As a reminder, guys, do not disappear here. Immediately following this stream, we're heading over to the Splash Play channel. I have that linked in the description down below. I have it pinned, I believe, in the chat. We'll be doing my 69th very, very nice draft over on the Splash Play channel. Make sure you guys are liked and subscribed here. If for some reason this is your first time watching, I am doing a giveaway when I hit 15,000 subs. We are less than 1,000 subs away. Every one of my Best Ball Mania streams, wherever I do it, whether it's here on Splash Play, Ship Chasing, wherever, if you leave a comment after the show ends, you will get entered into a giveaway. I'm going to do 3 $500 winners when I hit 15,000 subs. We'll do it on stream. I'll get all the names pulled. Just make sure you're doing some creativity in the comments. I saw if you read the FAQ, I do say don't write just comment, or first. I do throw those out. So as long as you're giving a concerted effort to comment like a non-robot, you will be entered in the giveaway.
Yeah, got to watch the bylaws there and all the giveaways as always here. But give us a reading, Pete, on your final team.
Yeah, I'm just naming it here for my my OCD. I'll love it when that fits here. So I finished with a 3-5-7-3 build here. At quarterback, Anthony Richardson, Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder. Had to get an Anthony Richardson share to make Spags proud of me. My running backs, Ramondre Stevenson and Travis Etienne, kind of a little double anchor RB build out of the, dare I say, dead zone. And then Khalil Herbert, Tyler Algier, and Tajay Spears to round out the room. Wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, please don't get suspended. Devonta Smith, Drake London, Treylon Burks, Mike Evans, Rashad Bateman, Alec Pierce. Feel very good about that room. 6 wide receivers through 93 picks, and then tack on Alec Pierce. And then the tight ends, which I like as well. Pat Freiermuth, who I backstacked with Pickett. Juwan Johnson is a big ADP faller, and then Jelani Woods to round out the Anthony Richardson pick. So a lot of times I say I don't like my teams on these streams. I actually like this team.
Yeah, funny how that works out when one guy completely throws away his team. Everybody's team gets a little bit better.
You know what? I think I deserve one gift after battling the best and brightest on Underdog for most of the time, to have one guy phoning it in.
My final team here, I got a 3-5-8-2 build. Justin Herbert, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers at QB. So no bye week bros tilting here. Running back, Eckler, Samaje Perine, Damian Harris, Raheem Mostert, Gus Edwards. Maybe went a little too thin, but the Eckler part of it made me feel like I could. A receiver, Garrett Wilson, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Michael Pittman, Elijah Moore, Tyquan Thornton, McCole Hardman, and Cedric Tillman rounding out the room. And a tight end, Dulcich and Everett. Certainly a unique team for me. Nicely correlated for week 17, but maybe could have worked some pockets a little better. But I think again, 2 solid teams, Pete. I think we're in our stride right now of drafting teams. So of course we'll take some time off for 4th of July and get much worse.
Yeah, I thought you drafted a strong team. I think it would have been a tough spot for you if you didn't get the Rodgers faller. Maybe you probably would have tacked on Mac Jones, right? Could you have?
Yeah, I mean that would have been an option, I think.
Yeah, and then the only other 2v2 that was tough, asking me to pass on Marvin Mims. Basically, it would be Marvin Mims instead of Cedric Tillman, and then Gerald Everett would have been a lesser tight end, but then that would have forced you in to probably a 3 tight end build if you didn't have Everett. So that would have kind of messed up your structure, I think.
Yeah, I think this, I like building different teams. Certainly not my usual go-to here, but that's sort of what we try to do on these streams is stretch our legs a little bit, take what the rooms gives us, and we'll do that well. But Pete, give the plugs one more time here. Of course, people should be following you at Peter Overzet, following me at Chris Spags. They should over to the Splash Play channel. It'll redirect you here on Pete's channel. Once this video ends, we'll be doing our second draft of the day there. And again, no Splash Play shows next week because I'll be on vacation and Pete will as well.
Yeah, a few other housekeeping things for me. I did just post yesterday. I recorded a best ball data roundtable. Mike Leone joined, as well as the guys over at Fantasy Data Pros who have been working with. You guys have heard me talk about their data encoding course here. We did a little roundtable talking about the current best ball data landscape, Josh Lee's controversial thread about does stacking matter, and about just how you guys can get started as well, learning how to code with their fantasy football course. So some interesting conversations there. I recommend checking that out. No club show today. Spags, I forgot to tell you, not that I have to keep you abreast of all of my childcare situations, but our childcare is out sick again for the week. So I have been having to scale back my shows and responsibilities. So the only other thing I'm doing today after our draft is I will do the Fantasy Life office hours in the Discord at 3:30. If you guys want to come talk best ball, show off your exposures, ask me to review your teams, all that good stuff, I will be in there at 3:30 p.m. Eastern.
Good thing you didn't tell me. Otherwise, I would have called up that childcare worker and been like, hey, you can't do this to Pete. Not right before the 4th of July.
It was brutal. It always happens because, Lauren and I are with April Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then we're like, all right, finally going to get some stuff done on Monday. And then out sick. I'm like, dear Lord, give me strength.
The parents relate. I know we have more parents in the audience now than ever, so we appreciate all the parents out there who have to deal with that. And frankly, the fact that the weekends, Pete, are more work than actual weeks because of when you have daycare.
I don't want to complain because I do love spending time. It's just more like, okay, I'm finally going to have some time to get some stuff done. And then you're like, no, I'm not going to have that time. So Spags, we do have time to draft though. Let's head over to the Splash Play channel for draft number 69.
Yeah, we're going to teleport over